I hate that award because they failed to define it, and I think the spirit of it has been taken out of whack. I don't like that award. Just call it the high draft pick that is on a max contract that now is an all-star. Just call it that award. Who's that guy?
We're a month into the NBA season now, and everywhere you look, players have gotten better. They've doubled their averages, expanded their roles, and reinvented themselves over the summer. There's improvement all over the league, but there's one question we have to find a single answer for at the end of the year. Who's the most improved player, and how do you even know? Usually we wait until spring to start this debate, but this award has a reputation, and it's not a great one. Selective propaganda, quiet agendas, underhanded jabs, dressed up as analysis, fan bases sharpening their arguments like they're running political campaigns. And honestly, the frenzy makes sense. That tidy little name fits nicely on a trophy plaque, but its ambiguity is a problem when the discourse starts. There's no real baseline or a way to compare improvements. It's a race without a starting mark or a finish line, relying on a bunch of voters to decide a winner based on who they think was running the fastest. It's not a great system, and if this latest edition continues to be as close as it has been, we could see an ideological war break out on NBA Twitter. We probably can't stop the basketball internet from tearing each other apart 6 months from now. That's above our pay grade. But what we can do is start early and find some common ground to save us the trouble later. If we want to minimize the carnage, the conversation has to start now. When the Thunder traded Josh Giddy for Alex Caruso, most of the basketball world pointed and laughed at Chicago, while celebrating Oklahoma City as a bunch of cutting-edge visionaries. We love to get up on a soapbox here and warn about jumping to conclusions, but we get it. Both franchises have earned those reputations. In this instance though, the Bulls front office knew what they were doing. I mean, they didn't pull one over or anything. The Thunder got Alex Caruso, but still, considering their timeline, this move actually made sense. Josh Giddy arrived in the Windy City as a talented playmaker who failed to threaten defenses with his scoring in any meaningful way. He was a fun prospect who shined in specific spots. That's fine for a third-year player in most situations. Unfortunately, Giddy was playing on a team that was ready to compete for titles, and in the playoffs, we all saw it. Opponents were daring him to shoot and shifting rotations away from him, and that was not a realistic option for the Thunder. But as soon as he put a Bulls jersey on, his three-point shot improved. Last year was his first full season shooting over 35% from three, and at the moment, he's on pace to make it 2 in a row. But that's not the only thing that's caught our attention, because Josh Giddy has gotten better in every conceivable way. As a driver, he's more decisive while still maintaining the same sense of patience that made him such a dangerous decision maker in the first place. As a passer, he's more creative, which is really noteworthy since he's never had any problem inventing angles in the past. And finally, as a scorer, he's been a different player entirely. Giddy's found ways to make up for his limited athleticism around the rim with a creative assortment of floaters, scoop layups, and intelligent body positioning that shields the ball from defenders. On top of that, his improved jump shot has allowed him to get more creative with the way he uses screens, and more inventive with his off-ball movements. The days of simply keeping him from getting downhill are over. He's a threat at all times. This added dimension has dramatically changed his ceiling as an offensive cornerstone. Instead of being a creator who coaches have to manage for with the right rotations, he's one they can trust, a full-time showrunner that the Bulls can rely on to catalyze actions for the majority of the game. That's not an insignificant leap. A lot of talented players get stuck in that gray area in between primary creator and secondary distributor, and Giddy has officially escaped that dangerous realm. If perception is the light that guides your criteria, then Giddy might be your frontrunner. He was boxed in as a known commodity, and now he feels like an exciting young prospect again. It's a progression that's absolutely worthy of the hype it's received, but will it be enough to take a piece of hardware in his honor? That depends largely on how Chicago does for the rest of the season. There are players in the league with more drastic statistical improvements, and guys whose stories are going to produce significantly more inspiring narratives. If the Bulls are back, truly back, for the first time in a decade, Giddy will be tough to deny. Unfortunately, that looks uncertain at best right now. Even after the Pope's blessing, it's not that we've lost faith, we just need a sign. To begin the season for Milwaukee, there was a pretty huge problem preventing any real optimism. They didn't have a point guard. Kevin Porter Jr. flashed late last season and had some moments in the playoffs, and Cole Anthony gave them a reliable, experienced spark plug, but neither of those two were answers strong enough to end the conversation. But don't worry, there's good news. The kid they took a flyer on out of Washington, yeah, he's the truth. Ryan Rollins got the world's attention with a 32-point masterclass against Steph Curry and the Warriors, including a late dagger to put the game away. It had the feel of one of those dreamlike early season memories, a flash in the pan of the bizarre opening weeks. Now that a month has passed since that night, that no longer seems to be the case. We could list his jarring statistical jumps: a scoring average up by 12 points, assist numbers he's never even approached in the past. There's enough there to break out the whiteboard and turn this into a Khan Academy video, but we'll spare you because the eye test is more than enough in this case. When Giannis has been on the sideline, Milwaukee has trusted Rollins to run the offense, be aggressive, and spark all of the actions drawn up by Doc Rivers. That's a massive responsibility to place on the shoulders of someone who's never held down a real role on a competitive team, and the Toledo product has made it look like the Bucks aren't asking enough out of him. He's controlled enough to protect the ball at all times, with a burst that allows him to get by the front line with consistency, but the thing that just blows us away is his pace. Rollins navigates screens like he's been playing in this league for a decade. He's shrewd with his angles and decisive with his decisions. Those two traits are deadly. Maybe the bones of this were here last year, but this player was not. The summer he had is worth studying. As it stands, his case for the most improved player honor avoids all of the usual negative talking points. He was a second-round pick, so no pre-draft pedigree that makes this seem expected. He's doing this on a competitive basketball team, so we'll all see his games. And he's gone from a guy who played roughly 15 minutes a game to an essential piece on an Eastern Conference contender. That resume is harder to poke holes in than a brick wall, and frankly, we think his case might be the most compelling. Literally speaking, it's hard to argue that anyone else is the most improved player. I mean, he went from a rotational point guard to a backcourt necessity, but if we were engaging in bad faith arguments, the one box Rollins likely won't check is an all-star selection. On its own, that doesn't matter much, but some of the other names in this video have a legitimate chance at making their first trip to All-Star Weekend, and that milestone changes the way players are viewed. There's a real chance he's in the lead right now, but this race is nowhere close to over. If you haven't heard about Denny Avdija's rise, then you don't have enough Blazers fans in your life. Portlandians have been screaming from the rooftops of secondhand bookshops with a matcha in hand about Denny mania, and in fairness to them, their excitement is understandable. The 6'8" attacker has been one of the best primary creators in the Western Conference, and we really aren't even exaggerating. Avdija has been able to get downhill at an alarming rate. He's currently leading the league in drives, collapsing lanes on virtually every possession as the undisputed engine of the Blazers offense, and he's doing it at a level of efficiency that would be impressive for an established star. With his athleticism and frame, Avdija can go straight at rim protectors without any fear of getting walled up at the cup, and his layup package is diverse enough to knife through a sea of arms without losing control. Beyond that, Avdija's three-point volume has taken a sizable step forward, and the threat of his outside shot has only made it easier for him to get to the rim. We realize we're painting the picture of a dominant modern slasher with dangerous playmaking capabilities, and we're sure that sounds a little overzealous, but when we watch the Blazers, it doesn't feel like it. He can score, pass, rebound, and defend. The point forward prototype every GM is chasing in the lottery, with the skill of a 1 and the size of a 4. At this rate, his first All-Star nod will be absolutely mandatory, and no one can say he was on the radar from last season, but now we have to be negative. We don't like saying it, but Portland has stumbled a bit since their hot start. While they're still in playoff contention, they've slid down into the play-in. That's not an issue yet, and as long as they remain in the hunt for a postseason berth, it won't be. But if the Blazers continue their backslide and fall off the national radar, then their rapidly rising star will as well. It doesn't take long for the talking heads to chastise someone for putting up empty calorie stats, and that label is tough to get rid of even if it's unfair. Nevertheless, at that's a doomsday scenario to deal with in the future. Right now, Avdija's case for the award is as strong as anyone else's, and if you believe in a scaling difficulty model, he might even be the clear choice. He's nearly increased his scoring average by 10 points. He's clearly in line for some recognition when the All-Star voting commences, and there's no question how important he is to his team. If Portland can find their rhythm again, it'll be incredibly tough for anyone to cut in front of the Pacific Northwest's newest star. If not, the spotlight might land on someone else, even if he manages to keep up this rampant pace all season long on the same eye-opening efficiency. Not being a topic in the late season media cycle could be too big a hurdle to clear. Fair or not, players on better teams benefit from the added weight of their performances, and there's another ridiculous talent on the cusp of stardom who looks set to be under the spotlight through April. The Pistons have been the best story of the early season, and while much of the focus has been on Cade Cunningham and his budding MVP campaign, there's a genuine monster buying up real estate in keys across the country. Jalen Duren doesn't look like a regular NBA center. He looks more like someone with a comic written about them, like the platonic ideal of a gladiator, and so far, that petrifying strength has been on full display. Duren has bullied front courts everywhere, consistently establishing position on the glass and hauling in rebounds like they're magnetically attracted to his hands. But him being imposing on the boards isn't really anything new. Duren's been a double-double machine for a couple years. What he hasn't been is a consistent 20 and 10 threat. So far in this young season, he is. He has incredible movement skills for a center, and probably the most underrated trait in a good big man: great hands. Duren catches every pass at the highest point without bobbling or panicking. That means he can take the extra power dribble consistently, or even occasionally make a decision on the short roll. Seriously, be on the lookout for that. This armored tank isn't far away from being a legitimate secondary decision maker, but even if he doesn't, that balance we've already outlined of brute strength and fluid fundamentals make him the ideal new age center, minus a three-point shot. Detroit has leaned on him to be the defining presence of their front court, the possession ender, the backbone of the defense, and a foundational force for the offense. And under that pressure, he's played so well, the Pistons are breaking the supposed stylistic limitations of the pace and space era. It's hard to overstate how crazy that is. He's bringing back a lost archetype, or maybe recalibrating it. Some kind of Kenyon Martin, Dwight Howard hybrid, keeping up with NBA athletes in space and trying to tear the rim from its hinges with a constant onslaught of two-handed dunks. Avdija and Rollins made bigger jumps, and Giddy is at least as impressive, but his improvement has translated the most directly to winning basketball games. Besides, do you want to be the person to tell Detroit they don't know a great two-way anchor when they see one? These guys were screaming about Ben Wallace before he had an afro. They know what they're seeing. If the Pistons finish the year at the top of the East, the campaign will be deafening. So if you're keeping track at home, our final ladder would look something like Duren 1, Rollins 1A, and Denny and Giddy both an 8-game winning streak away from them. That's far too close for us to speak definitively, and that's our biggest point. We can't give you anything better than a flawed prediction with more contingencies than anyone is ever entitled to, because this is a flawed award built on hidden contingencies. It's just the nature of the trophy. Improvement is vague and subjective, and even if it could be distilled down into a metric, some of these leaps are still too close to differentiate, and we don't even really know who the finalists are yet. Reed Shepherd's out there, Keontae George is making noise, and Austin Reeves is killing defenses nightly. The season's hardly started. There will be a constantly growing list of players playing better than ever before, but there's only one trophy. Whoever takes it home this year will have earned the inscription, but the plaque will still be too small. Most improved doesn't leave enough room for the rest of the story. Remember, the competition is the only thing that makes the trophy valuable. Watch the games, appreciate the performances, and don't cut anyone else down to prop someone up. There are enough games for everyone to get a word in.